Every woman deserves to feel vibrant, safe, loved, and feel her power. The Woman's Vibrancy Code podcast is here for a potent use of your time. We will cover energy, hormones, and libido with episodes that also dive into entrepreneurship, money mindset, feminine power, and much, much more. Introducing Maraya Brown, Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, and entrepreneur.
Today, we have Shamina Taylor with us, and I want you to really, if you're out there multitasking, you might want to listen into this one. So Shamina what she specializes in is she helps you activate your wealth consciousness. Let me say that again. She will help you activate your wealth consciousness. So a little bit about her. She's an attorney and a wealth expert and mentor. She helps high achieving women level up in their personal lives and in their businesses by teaching them how to become the most powerful, fulfilled, wealthy, and successful version of themselves. With over 20 years of experience, Shamina is a top industry leader and has helped hundreds of women build their businesses, both on and offline. Her top clients are making up to $75,000 a month in recurring revenue and have multiple seven-figure businesses. Shamina herself has had a record-breaking year. Despite the pandemic, her business crossed the seven-figure cash received mark in less than 12 months. So if that didn't capture your interest, keep listening. Shamina has spoken at Thinkific's online course Success Summit, the Wealth Summit, the Intuitive Entrepreneur, the Smarter Income Stream, and was the keynote speaker at Oneness Festival. So you can read more of her bio in the description. You can see she's been on ABC Sacramento, DC. Her time is worth honoring. And so Shamina, thank you for coming and joining us here in this space.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this. This is amazing. This is an honor to be here.
It is, right? Thank you for saying that. I have also had the opportunity to be in physical body form space, sharing our energy 2 different times at conferences in Florida. And right away, Shamina's energy will capture your interests. I don't know if you remember, Shamina, when we first met, there was this, I know you from somewhere.
Yeah, we had this click. It just happened.
Mm-hmm. Where did we know each other from? And we still haven't figured that out, but here we know each other now. Okay, so Shamina, can you just start out by telling us a little bit about your story? How did an attorney become a wealth expert and also spiritual teacher? I know that many of the women listening are leaning in going, wait, what?
So it's a crazy story. It was so cliche. I was an attorney who didn't know she had a soul, which is kind of crazy. And I was your typical overachiever, a woman who had her own law firm. I had 2 kids. I was married to very good looking, successful guy. We built our mini mansion out in the suburbs. We would go to Europe in the summertime and we'd go to the Caribbean and Aruba, Cayman Islands in the winter. Had all the Louis Vuittons dripping in diamonds, basically all the things that they say makes up the American dream. This is what success is. So I had this perfect picture family. And I even had the perfect body. I was doing bodybuilding shows and I just finished a competition and I made friends with a woman who saw what I was doing and she wanted to refend me and she wanted to do a show with me too. The show wrapped up. And then because she'd lost so much weight, I think it was CBS or NBC wanted to do a story on her and they wanted to do some B-roll. Well, she was a yogi. I had actually 2 yogis that came into my life at this time. And being a bodybuilder, yoga was not something that I was drawn to. And when I did do it, the first couple of times, I'm like, this is really hard. My lats were seizing up. Anyway, long story short, we needed to get some B-roll for her. And being one of her best friends, I wanted to go everywhere with her. And the thought of being on TV, I was like, okay, game on. I want to be on TV. So the day, it was January 9th, 2013. The one yogi, she had a beautiful studio. So we were going to her studio and the yogi that was going to be on TV, she was going to teach the class there. So I remember walking in and you could smell the incense and the walls, the mirrors and the windows had that condensation on it. And I'm like, what am I getting myself into? Well, I went up to the cameraman and I said to him, I go, hey, make sure you don't pan on me too much because I really don't know what I'm doing. But really what I was saying was, don't forget who I am. I had the cutest Lululemon on, an open back top. I was all about it. I wanted to be on TV. She set up my mat against the wall. And I was in midway in the room, and I put my phone beside me because that's what you do in yoga class, right? You take your phone with you. And so we started the class. About 15 minutes into it, I started getting super irritated with her. You're not supposed to get irritated in yoga. But I will never forget this moment. I'm like, she was making us go up and down, up and down. I literally did probably 100 down dogs at that point. And I was getting annoyed with her. And I'm thinking, she's showing off. Like, why are we doing P90X yoga here? There's no need for you to have us jumping around. There was like 40 or 50 people in this class. And as she was talking, she was, finally, I'm like, okay, she's like, get into this move. Cause I looked at my phone, and I turned it over, and I was like, we'd only been there 15 minutes. And I was thinking to myself, I got 45 more minutes of this thing, right? I'm in this yoga class, and she's like, okay, put your leg this way, put your leg that way. And I'm highly competitive. I was in my masculine. I was in a lot of prove it energy, a lot of validation energy. I could do anything. Even if it wasn't bodybuilding, I was going to do this move. But as I was getting into this move, she was talking to us. She was like, the yogis, what they do, like, are you happy? She was saying, are you living every day over and over again? Like it's, Groundhog Day, kind of what she was saying. And as she was talking, and I'm adjusting myself into this move and grabbing that, like the spongy thing, holding on to dear life, like I literally was clenching to it. I could feel this pain start building up in my hips. And it was like a pain I'd never felt before, because one hip was going out, the other hip was going the other way. And I was pushing through this pain. And as she was talking about our life, I had this moment where I was like pushing through this pain, listening to her. And I was like, who is Shamina? Who is Shamina? I had just become, no disrespect to my kids, a mom. I was an attorney, but I'd lost who I was. In that moment, everything was flashing before my eyes, like this perfect little life that I'd created. I was questioning everything, myself, my identity. And as I was questioning it, I was pushing through this hip pain. And before I knew it, this physical pain turned into like emotional pain. And I just started crying. Like I had never cried like that before in my life. I had like a breakdown on this mat. It was like an awakening. I had the ugliest cry of my life as I was sitting there thinking about my life. I'm like, what does my life really mean? Is it fulfilled? Like I had all these things. I had all these achievements, all these accolades. Like I achieved so much success. But the thing that was missing was pure and utter peace and happiness and a fulfillment that none of these things could provide. And I knew something had to change in that moment, but I just cried all the way to the end of the class. I stayed in that one pose. I was in the frog pose. If you've never been in it before, it is a very advanced move that someone who's done yoga maybe 3 or 4 times should not have been in, but I pushed through, and thank God that I did, because it was the first part of my awakening. When I lifted my head up, people rubbing my back, I had snot all over because I was wearing like literally a little piece of Lululemon. And I knew something had to change in my life. I had the biggest wake up call of my life. I talked to the 2 yogis. They'd both been divorced before, and they were remarried, and they're like, oh, well, this is what's got to come next. I'm like, the thought of it was overwhelming because it wasn't an idea. I had no family here. And then I came home and I talked to my husband, and he asked me how the yoga class was. I said it was good. A couple of days later, I told him the truth, and we talked for about 3 hours. And then we realized neither one of us were really happy. Neither one of us were really fulfilled. And a month later, because we went to a therapist, we decided it was a good idea if he moved out, but he never moved home. And that began the journey of my discovery of self. I remember going to a psychic, and they said my third eye was closed. And I said, I got to get that bitch open. Like, what's going on? And I started realizing that I was having an awakening. I started seeing 1111. I went in something called my monk mode. I'd filed for divorce. I started making decisions. I knew practicing law wasn't going to be the greatest thing that I did, but a calling was coming to me, something of higher purpose, but I didn't know what. And then for 3 years, I was celibate. I took time to figure out who I was. I let spirit guide me. And being a lawyer who like evidence-based, I was now listening to signs from the universe, my spiritual soul self speaking to me. It was the most incredible awakening. And then I started figuring out what was next. I'm going to be a single mom. and I had to support myself. I had to figure things out. And I had really poor money. Even though I was successful, I didn't believe in my ability to make money. And then I started figuring out what it meant to become a wealthy woman and to come online and share my awakening so I can help other women really fall into that healing, because I was closed off emotionally. I had this armor because I had a lot of abuse when I was younger, physical, emotional, mental, all the things. And when you are in trauma, you live through it. And I no longer was a victim. I'd healed that mindset for 3 decades. I'd owned a victim mentality, got out of that scarcity mindset, and I found this amazing world of creating with my thoughts. I was like, wait a minute. As I healed through things and I moved through some emotional state, I realized, like, as I thought something, it would come true. I thought it was my little secret. Wayne Dyer was one of the teachers that came to me because Spirit was like bringing me different teachers. And I'm like, I can manifest. And I thought, well, maybe I should share this with people. And then I didn't know if it was my own little secret. We'll come to find out a whole world was doing it. But the way I did it was differently. And that's what I started doing. I started teaching programs on it. I started teaching people how to create their own reality. And that is what I do right now with women. I help them heal through, learn emotional mastery. That's what I did. I learned to master my emotions and not my emotions mastering me. And because I was able to do that, I now create from that emotional mindset state. The only person that's in my way is me. And if I want something, I just have to rework it, the thoughts and the emotions, and bam, the universe delivers it. That's my story.
I love the story. And I wrote down a few questions. I have to say, Wayne Dyer, when I first met my husband, we were on the big island of Hawaii, and he proposed our first date. For some of you that know me, it's a crazy story. And then I think it was the next weekend, he flew me over to Hawaii for the weekend, and we got to go to a Wayne Dyer event. So whenever I hear him, that's a big part of my past, but totally beside the point from this interview. So back to what we're talking about, I heard a couple things that kind of struck a chord for me that I want to ask about. One was the idea of masculine versus feminine in a working space, coupled with mastering your emotions. So there was this piece of me going, wait, how does that work? How can you be fully in the feminine? I think of like Glennon Doyle saying feelings are meant to be felt, coupled with mastering emotions, mastering feels. I don't know, it made me think, is that masculine? Is that controlling? So how do both exist in the same space? How can a woman be fully in her quote unquote feminine and also master emotions? Can you tell us more about that?
So from my perspective, this is not truth or law, it's just what I teach and what I know, is that when we're in our wounded masculine state, we're usually high achievers, women that get shit done. They're nurturers. They take care of everybody. They're people pleasing. They're perfectionists. They're overthinkers. They're very methodical, like I was as an attorney. But what I found is, and this is the relation to money, which I'll talk about wealth consciousness, because I believe money is masculine. But I believe that when we're in that masculine state, we still have the armor up. We're doers. We can get shit done. We know how to make money, but we don't know how to really create wealth with the quantum field. When we're in our masculine, we're in our human. But when we tap into the soul self, our higher self, our God consciousness, that's our goddess energy. That's our feminine flow. That is the quantum energy. That's the field. And the more that we can tap into that energy, the more that we can create what we want. When we're in our masculine, we don't feel as much, because masculine is not a feeling energy. The feminine is the feeling energy. So when we learn to master emotions, meaning we learn how to understand how we respond to people and when we get triggered. Because when we're only responding to triggers, we're not the master of our emotions, because we're letting a trigger and a wound that's unhealed in us dictate how we feel, how we think, how we show up, how we make decisions. But when we can take a trigger and we can heal through the wound, we realize like, oh, this is a trigger. Because sometimes they don't always go away, but we just learn how to master it, or it gets watered down because we've worked through it many times. Oh, this is a trigger. I get it. I get to choose now how I want to respond to it. I get to choose how I want to work through it. That's what I mean by being the master. Then once you've worked through it, you feel through the emotion, because every emotional state you have is okay. You get to be angry. You get to be jealous. Everything gets to be honored. It's when we don't honor it. And what happens when we're that wounded masculine, we shut it off. We turn off the emotions because we don't want to feel. So we numb it out. Either we drink, porn, shop, overwork. I don't want to feel it. Or we think we stuff it down somewhere else. But stuffed energy is still energy, and we still create from it. And the subconscious will still tap into that because it's all connected, right? So if we think we're ignoring it, well, I'm going to talk about what happened to me, because that's what I did. I buried all this stuff. It still is creating. So when you come to be the master, you are not afraid. You don't fear the emotions anymore. Your nervous system gets to get healed, because part of trauma is the nervous is the human. And then you get to co-create with the universe. Then you get to do what you want with it. And that is allowing that feminine, the knowing, the trust, and being able to be like, everything is going to be okay, no matter what. You don't have to protect.
As a midwife, the place that I go is just like simple biology, right? A woman receives sperm and creates within her womb, and it feels very effortless. It's a very feminine, intuitive space. And how fascinating that often when women are pregnant, they're more emotional, they have more profound dreams. And it makes me think, in this creative space, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. If you actually bring that in, isn't having a child a spiritual experience?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about it, you're bringing another soul into the world through your womb. I mean, that's the biggest portal of connection to the creation. And if we believe, like I do, that our souls don't die, we just incarnate, and that we're the essence of who we be, the spiritual self just keeps on for eternity, but we just have different human experiences, then you're bringing a new soul into the portal of you as a woman. And so the womb is, like, to me, an activation to the quantum field. Mm-hmm. Even if you are not able to birth a child, I still believe that you can create from this centerpiece of who you are.
When I hear your story about where you were before the awakening, and you had all the things and all the wealth, but you felt unfulfilled, those are my words. Now you created $1 million in a year. You must have the things again, and the purses and the money and the home. No. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I have everything.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I've got more than anything. I can buy anything I want now.
Okay. And how is the relationship different with the things now? How do you catch yourself from going back into that loop of where you were?
Okay. So when I was in that space, when I bought something, it identified me. It was like an accolade. Like, look, here you go. I mean, I have my purse right beside me, but look at my purse. This validates me. Now it's like, oh, this purse makes me look good. Like, I don't need the purse to look good. Like, I make the purse look good in that sense. Like, it makes me feel good to have it. I have a different appreciation for nice things now. Like, I believe that luxury is for anybody. Wealth is for anybody. And I had a straw bag. I mean, like, I did. When I was awakening, I literally took all my diamonds off. I took all my jewelry off. I have beads. I wore beads all the time. Because I thought being wealthy was like part of the problem. And so I just kind of got rid of all my wealth, and I lived very minimally. And then I'm like, that's not really working out so good right now, because I need money to survive. I got to work, and and then I realized that it's not money. Money is only wealth, and money is only meaning that I gave it. And because I gave it a meaning that it validated me, or it was giving me something, that's the only meaning of it. Because now I give money a different meaning. I give money freedom, experiences, travel. I fly only first class. That's how I want to travel right now. I can walk into any store and buy whatever I want because I want that. Like, it's a desire. Everything is from a desired state and not from a need state. Like, before, it's like, well, I need that purse to feel good. Now it's like, oh, I desire that. And when you purchase and you invest from desire, it's actually the feminine. It's like the seat of your soul, because you get to have these desires. You don't have to. I mean, some people don't want them. That's okay. And some people I don't like designer. I celebrate that. I do. I want to be able to, allow my desires to come through. And the more that I feed the desires, I feed the feminine in me. So whenever I make a purchase, it's always from a desire state and an investment. Does this feel good to have this? If it doesn't feel good, I don't buy it.
And so
That's the shift.
yeah. And it sounds like what you do now is help other women, first of all, maybe get clarity in what it is that they desire, and then also help them actually activate the creation of those desires. In your scenario, it's wealth, but I imagine it could be freedom, it could be abundance, it could be love, it could be, but you're working the wealth realm. So how do you help individuals, first of all, get clarity on what it is that they desire? And then how do you help them actually create the wealth and that new reality?
So it's actually all things, because I don't know if you notice in the group that women are getting men now coming to them, because I believe money, men, anything that's meant to desired state that you desire, wanting, love. For me, love was the last part to come in for me, because I had I don't want anybody to ruin my perfect little world that I created. And now I'm like, oh, it's a safety that they're looking for. So I teach people not to look at money for safety. When you're in your wounded masculine, you're always going to look to money for safety and security. And that's what people place that meaning on money. When I realized that money could not make me feel safe, someone asked me, now that you have, $500,000 in your bank account cash, do you feel safer? No, it didn't change my emotional state. I had the safety, and then the money came, because then I knew money always supported me. And I knew when I had a zero negative bank account last year. I had to teach myself what safety meant. Safety meant having my own back, but trusting myself, trusting the feminine to guide me, trusting that everything was going to be okay, trusting that I could heal through that. I'd been through everything that was meant to break me, and I still survived. And I had to keep telling myself that you are going to be okay no matter what. And so when you shift into the desire of, like, say, wealth, it is rewiring our relationship first with money, and not needing money to give you something other than the ability to barter and purchase. Like, money in itself is not going to give you love. It's not going to give you security. You have to first obtain it within self. And then once you do, you get into the receiving mode, because I said money was masculine. Then you're in the feminine. I know that the masculine always supports me. And money is one of the masculine energies. Like, with your husband, when you get into your feminine, he's going to be in his masculine and come. But when you're in the, masculine and you're controlling or whatever, he goes right into his feminine, because we have to have polarity. Mm-hmm. So if you're in your masculine all the time, forcing money to come to you and struggling with it, well, then money's not going to come to you so easily. It's going to be like harder to get it, because you're not in a state of receivership, just like when women get pregnant. Mm-hmm. So the first order of business we talk about is your relationship with money. And what are you putting on there? And so for many of your watchers, I would write down, what does money mean to you? What does it really mean to you? And what type of relationship do you have with it currently? Do you think money has to, come by in a hard way? Do you think you have to earn it? Do you think money's going to leave you? And chances are, when you do this exercise, you're going to see a very clear correlation with the masculine energy in your life. If you had an absent father, you're going to think money's going to leave you. If your mother was critical of you, you're going to think you have to be a certain way, or, you're going to sabotage your money. You'll see the connection. So once we go through that process, then you get to create a new belief system around money. Mm-hmm. And then start opening up to receiving it and trusting. If you believe that money's only for Susie and not for you, then you have not accessed the abundance and the limitless that's out there, because it gets to be yours no matter what.
And it seems, I love how you said it's wealth, it's money, but it's everything. It's love, it's health. Like, even I'm in the health world, so I could help a woman lose 30 pounds and she thinks that that's what she needs. But what I'm hearing is you're helping women heal the wounded masculine or the wounded feminine within. Right. And then the safety is created.
Yep.
And from a foundational internal space of safety, that's when the creation comes, whether it's love or health or weight loss or money or jobs or whatever. And we're more likely to actually attract what it is that is aligned with our truest nature. Is that true? Or do we just attract it all?
Then you can create from that state, though. Then you have a clean palette. Because if you're in the, oh my God, I need this money to feel safe energy, that's desperate energy. That's scarcity. So you're going to create scarcity with money. And if you're like, I don't want this person to hurt me, I want to be in love, but I don't want them to hurt me. And if you're always trying to protect yourself from being hurt, well, guess what? You're going to have people that hurt you. So if you get to the place of, I'm going to be okay no matter what, that safety within self gets, this trust starts happening. Like, even if this person should betray me, should leave me, I'm going to be okay. If money should run out, I'm going to be okay. But guess what? The opposite, like, it doesn't run out. Money starts to accumulate, because when you start feeling in abundance, you feel the safety and support of money, money goes to you, because now it's like, oh, she feels wealthy, healthy, rich, more, because money attracts money. It's the same frequency. Love attracts love. Scarcity attracts scarcity. Nervousness attracts nervousness. Worry attracts worry. So when they say you've got to be what you want to attract, that's what they're talking about. And this is when you quantum leap. So people think they can just mindset their way out of it. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. For those that are listening, I remember, gosh, maybe it was about a month ago, I chose to work with Shamina. And part of it was observing my desire to lean in, but almost some of my moments of feeling so triggered. It's like, I don't know, this does not resonate with me, but you've got me leaning in, and wait, I don't know, I'm feeling the resistance. And what I said to myself is, when I'm feeling this much triggering or this much resistance, you must be my medicine. Do you find that often with driven women?
Yes. But there's a special type of woman who knows that she has a trigger like you do and is willing to go work through it. Because there's some women that will have the trigger and stay in the victim. They'll stay in their mess. They'll stay in the blame. They'll stay in the, this happened to me instead of it happened for me. You're not one of those women. You're like, okay, I know this is happening. I'm ready to do the work around it, because you got to be ready for the work. But you were ready and you said, okay, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I know that I can get to that next level. Because you were willing to take control of your emotions and where you were at, that's becoming the master. Mm-hmm. Because you said yes to not feeling like that anymore.
Yeah. And I want to say yes to creating abundance of all of it. I'm one of those right now in my life. I don't need designer, but I love the idea of freedom and big trips and to treat my friends to amazing things and whatever school my children want and whatever it may be. And what I hear from you is that the energy is of receiving those, for us to be in our feminine space, that watery fluidity space of receiving. When the floodgates open, we get to create whatever it is.
Whatever you want.
So juicy question for you. I'm wondering if we can talk about sex and relationships.
Yeah.
So you said one of the last pieces to your creational story was you found love. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some juicy details? How does sex feel different when you've created a different type of abundant love and you feel like you might be a more whole, safe individual within yourself? How is it changing things?
So a couple of things. I did create him. I did call him in. I know that for a fact because I wrote him down, everything to a T, and he called him in because I was ready for him. I did a little ritual on the beach. Just want to put that out there. And he was a conscious man, which I want him to be, and is masculine, healthy masculine. And what happens is that you're no longer having trauma sex. You're no longer having addicted sex. You're no longer having sex like, oh, I can't, like, and when women think it's a connection, when they have that type of sex where they're just like, oh, we just can't keep our hands, but we have this deep connection. Oh my gosh, the sex is so good, but it's unhealthy because it's not actually bringing the relationship further. That's the only time I felt love. That's the only time I could connect, because usually what happens to women when they're in that wounded masculine state, the only time that she can let go, if she ever does, is in that sexual state. And she could feel something, because then her barrier and her guard is down, depending on how much she allows him to penetrate her, not just in her heart, but in her soul, not just her physical, but to receive in that moment. Now it starts way before the act happens. Like it's in the conversations, it's in the foreplay, it's in the after, it's in the act, it's everything. It's the whole conscious sex is so different than everything else because it's a meeting of the souls. It doesn't have to be safe to be there. You get to say, I love you. You get to be in a state of receiving love from the whole gamut, not just from the act of it in that moment. Mm-hmm. And it's a creation that happens all the time. It's not just in the physical act. And for me, the switch was realizing that it was not a neediness. I didn't have to connect with a man that way anymore. I could connect in so many different ways. It wasn't just in the physical act. And sometimes the conversations, the petting, the kissing is much more powerful than actually the act itself.
Mm-hmm. What an amazing year you've had. What do you think is your biggest takeaway from making $1 million cash in less than a year?
That anything's possible. And I just have to dream bigger. Keep going with the vision. And whatever vision I have now, I need to just keep being at the edge of it at all times. And that if I could create that, I could create anything. And that's when I knew I could create him. I'm looking to do $1 million a month now and create an 8-figure business and have my own TV show. And you've got to believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. And nobody else can give that to you unless you work with a mentor who can help you. Like I did hire mentors to help me to hold the vision. And my biggest takeaway is to resilience. It's always going to work out and I'm going to be okay no matter what. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of takeaways, but there's so many. And that women get to be so super wealthy. It's not just for men. It's like every woman can do this. If she's really ready and able, we can all have anything we want. I can have it all. Like there's nothing that I can't have right now.
Mm-hmm. And what will $1 million a month provide you?
So I actually thought about that and I think about that because you have to feel into it to create it. So I get to build a foundation and I don't think you have to have some sort of like work to do that, but I get to build a foundation for 13-year-olds that I want to go talk to young women at that age. I get to fly in a private jet to go on different talks. I get to have houses all over the world. I get to fund maybe my own television network to have conscious leaders come on and have maybe a conscious connection to the world because awakening others is one of the biggest things that I want. More books, more stages, more awareness, just there gets to just be more impact. And so right now, the money, the million, I was able to write a book. I was able to get on TV. I was able to create a platform. I was able to provide my kids. I shifted my kids' mindset and their wealth consciousness now. I was able to take my family on trips, like luxurious trips. I flew almost every week and I got to go this month. I think I was home for 4 days out of the month. I got to go meet with mentors. I got to hire people who knew more than me. So more money means more access to things I don't know. And that's freedom to me.
So you're touching lives. Thank you for what you do. In the description, in the show notes, you have her contact information to reach out. Shamina, anything that you would like to leave with just parting words for the women that are listening to this that are hungry, maybe they're leaning in and they're afraid to lean in further, but their interest is sparked and you're opening up the realm of possibility for them?
3 things. Whatever you desire, go bigger and always look at the end result and then work backwards. If you desire a certain feeling, state, physical, whatever it is, figure out what you need to do to get here. But don't try and become that woman to get here. Start with what you want and then work backwards. Because you're probably a lot further along than you think. Because sometimes when we look at what we don't have, we start looking and sabotaging ourselves. And maybe you are actually the woman that can get these things done, but you needed a mindset shift from Maraya. You needed something to help you get here, So look at the end result and maybe be more accepting of yourself. And then instead of what's missing, look at what's there and abundant. And the thing that got me through everything is I had a saying and it came up in one of my programs called It's Happening. And some women actually have tattooed that on their bodies. And both of them have gotten married and have had children. Well, one of them had children, one quit drinking. Apparently when you work with me, you stop drinking because you don't need to numb yourself anymore. I think I'm like the AA woo, but the woo AA, but, if you believe that it's always happening and you take the how and the when out, because when women are masculine, we're always trying to figure out the timeline. When is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? If you can scratch those 2 words from your vocabulary and write down, it's happening every day, believe it. Not what, don't take the one out. It will happen so much sooner. because you took the brakes off and you took off when it was supposed to come. Because if you tell the universe it's got to come by tomorrow, you create resistance. So if you write down it's happening and you let the how and when go, it will happen so much sooner. And the last thing, the third thing is more is always coming. This is how we create limitless thoughts and beliefs. If you can decide that more is always coming, then when you spend your money, you're not going to be like, I have to get this money back. When you go buy something from desire, you're not going to feel guilty about it because more is always coming. And if you start really adopting that and embody more is coming, you're going to live from a more abundant, limitless life. Because guess what? They're printing money all over the place. And if other people can be wealthy with it, guess what? You can be too. So more is always coming was such a huge shift for me. And it's a tagline in my business and with all the women I work with. And when you start to feel into that, not just believe it, but feel into more is coming, you get more servings of food. You get more love. You get more acceptance. You get more and more and more. And more means that it runneth over. And it's never running out.
A fun story when I first started working with Shamina, and that was my mantra every day, more is coming, and just really allowing myself to be grateful for anything that was coming in. Just to say, yes, I received that. Yes, I received that. And then I told you, Shamina, I got a check in the mail from the IRS saying we made a mistake on our taxes last year. And they sent me an extra $2,500. And I was like, okay, this is totally working. More is always coming. So the reminder that we don't necessarily have to know where it's coming from.
Nope. Money is money. Wealth is wealth. Gifts are gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what I heard from you is to go into the future of what it is that I want to create, even in the health world.
Yep.
Or what job you want to get, or a woman that wants to lose a certain amount of weight or become pregnant and have that many kids. To often, I think we spend so much time trying to become the person now, it's daunting and it's difficult. And then we get spinning in the doing. So what I'm hearing from you is take the frickin' pressure off our shoulders and know that we're enough right now, and to focus on where it is that we're going, knowing that we will become that person as we go. And it will, is that what I'm hearing? Am I saying that?
Exactly what you're hearing. Because if you can believe that she exists, you will quantum leap to her faster. Mm-hmm. So I know there's a version of me out there that's exactly who I want to be. This version of me here, I love and accept her, but I know I'm always becoming this greatest version of myself. Mm-hmm. And if you can really feel into that, this most perfect, beautiful, amazing, wealthy woman who has it all version of you exists, you will stop beating yourself up so much of who you are today.
I love it. So for those of you that have enjoyed this, Shamina's contact info is there. She has a free offer in the description. I don't know much about, but I'm trusting
it's called Flip My Money Switch On. And actually it's a paid offer. It's $1,000 program, but because I adore Maraya and I just at the last minute, my team put that in there. Go download it. And if you have issues, just send us a message, but it'll give you some money tips to start bringing in some wealth into your life. Because when you start making movements in that energy, other things start unleashing, because anything that's a shift in energy and consciousness is allowing, and more keeps coming in. So go take a look at it. All
right. So $1,000 Flip Your Money Switch just gifted to you. And so now you have received.
Yep. I live in abundance. I give knowing I don't give just to return, but I give knowing that it's going to be used in a well-mannered way. I don't give to receive. I just give. And I just give, and I know that an abundance is always raining on me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you again for your time, Shamina. What a delight. And thank you for giving me hope personally and taking me into your space. I'm looking forward to the woman that I'm becoming and the life that I'm creating.
Oh, I love that. That just sank in my soul. Mm-hmm. And remember always to anchor in the emotions, because they're the ones that we create from. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here and such a pleasure. And for all of you that something shifted in you, go journal on it right now, because something magical is going to come from it. It's a new moon tonight. And we get to create in this energy anything we want. Write all the things down that you want to desire out there to come through, because it's happening.
All right. New moon creational energy. Sounds like a good timing.
Wasn't this episode amazing? Let's distill it down to key takeaways and action steps.
All right. For a recap to Shamina Taylor, the interview speaks for itself. Key points. More is coming. We get to have it all. And as women, man, it's powerful for us to be able to do the work to receive, to feel confident and do the inner emotional work and allow ourselves to receive. So cheers to your journey of creating abundance, abundance of all things, abundance of love, abundance of money, abundance of joy in your career, abundance of relationships. And what an awesome, awesome interview. Feel very, very blessed to have Shamina Taylor with us. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Woman's Vibrancy Code. Connect with us and take the first step to transforming your energy, hormones, and libido at thewomansvibrancycode.com. Cheers to your zest and vitality. Make sure to follow for weekly power-packed value.